Esther. Hello.
Hello, Alistair.
So I think as we've got, we are now live stream, we need to start. So, ladies and gentlemen around the world, I am doing a bad impersonation of John Rowe because he's miles away on the other side of the world. Well, it's not that far really, it's only Romania. So, I'm here to say that we have a wonderful evening of stories tonight. Then we will be back next Tuesday for stories told by young people. And then next Friday again, there will be magical stories traveling on the wild carpet of the world. Now, tonight it is brilliant because we have Chip here. And Chip now lives in a very interesting house, and we might get him to talk about that at some point because I keep seeing pictures of his interesting house. But anyway, he is a wonderful teller and he's coming to take us away for a Friday night of beautiful stories. Go!
Thank you very much, Sarah. I had no idea, in the tradition of the World Storytelling Cafe, I had no idea of the introduction that I was going to get. So, first of all, I am immensely honoured to be introduced by Sarah. I feel so fortunate because, well, most people, normal storytellers, get introduced by John. But I've been introduced by Sarah. I mean, how special is that? But the other thing that I didn't realise was that Sarah was going to mention my new house, which I'm not actually in right now. Yeah, sorry, Sarah. She's just turned around and given me a really flabbergasted look, which I think you won't see unless you are here actually in the World Storytelling Cafe. So if you're watching this live right now, head to the World Storytelling Cafe website. I think it's worldstorytellingcafe.com still. That hasn't changed, has it? Yeah, everybody's nodding at me and shaking their heads at the same time. I think they've both interpreted that question in a different way. But yeah, if you go to worldstorytellingcafe.com and click on Join Story, you can come and actually join us here in the World Storytelling Cafe. But if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, that's absolutely fine too. You just have to look at my face the entire time. Unless somebody else makes a noise, like this. Go on, someone make a noise.
Me.
I've just turned me off. All right.
There you go. You get to see some of their lovely faces as well. So yeah, I unfortunately am not in my special new home right now. I am actually in a different part of the country entirely because I had a bit of an emergency that I needed to see to, and as a result, I found myself away from home, and I suddenly thought, I need to be in the World Storytelling Cafe. Whoop. But fortunately, you can be in the World Storytelling Cafe no matter wherever you are. So even John, being in Romania right now, could actually be here if he really wanted to. That's why, again, we are so special to have Sarah here as well. And in fact, speaking of Romania, I noticed that we've just got some really special guests up here in the cafe, two very good friends of mine. Are you going to let yourselves be seen? Make some noise if you want to be seen.
Okay.
There you go. Everybody just saw you for a brief split second there, but hello. It's so wonderful to have you here too. Welcome to my not new house. This is this is a different part of the country. I'm staying with family at the moment, but I couldn't miss being here with all of you folks because it's been so very long since I was last here in the World Storytelling Cafe. Louis nodding at that as well, because Louis and I, that was the last time we saw each other, Louis. It was it 2021? I don't know, sometime a long time ago anyway, wasn't it? So, without further ado, shall we have a story? I'm getting thumbs up, I'm getting heads nodding. People have got their microphones off, but I imagine if they didn't have their microphones off, there would be an absolute calamitous noise right now, a calamitous cacophony of sound. So we need to figure out what story we're going to tell, because as you've probably guessed, with myself being in a place that I wasn't expecting to be, my head's all frazzled. I have absolutely no idea what story I'm going to tell you folks. But as always, I want it to be a story that you are definitely going to love. So I tell you what, if you are not here in the cafe yet and you want to help me choose a story, do that thing where you go to the website, worldstorytellingcafe.com, click on Join Story. You can come and help with this. But if not, here's what I'd like everybody here in the cafe to do with me right now. Okay, I need to decide the level of excitement versus thoughtfulness in this story. So it could be a story that has got lots of swashbuckling adventure. I know Donald likes that. Or it could be a story that makes you think really smart thoughts. And I know Louis really likes those. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to imagine that your body is like one of those needles on a car, you know, that tells you how fast you're going. And if the needle goes this way, then that's going to be excitement. And if the needle goes this way, that's going to be smart. So you see, you can be in the middle if you want, or you can be mostly excitement, but you know, a little bit smart. Or you could be mostly smart, but still a little bit excitement. You could even be really smart. Excuse me. You could be really, really for excitement, in which case, don't fall off your chair like I just did. Or you could be really, really smart and go the other way. Obviously, not falling off because you're really smart. So, you all know what you're doing? Think everybody's ready. So, let me see your needles. Okay. I think that's excitement from Donald. Is that excitement from Donald? Definitely excitement from Sarah. Are you heading towards smart there, Louis? Are you? Yeah. Okay. And Alistair's here, also giving me quite a lot of smart, I think. Are you giving me a lot of smart there, Alistair? Okay. This means then I'm going to have to go right in the middle for Andrea and Adela to basically tip the scale. And they are going very smart. Is it very smart? No. Oh, is that the excitement side for you? Okay, it's the whole mirror thing on Zoom. Not everybody's going the same way. I should have thought of that. Okay, but now I know that's going to be really helpful. So it looks like it's mostly excitement that everybody's wanting then. But we need to have a little bit of smart because we've got a couple there who are wanting smart. Okay, so let's think. Okay, so now we know that. We need to know the choices between how funny it's going to be, and that's going to be all the way over here for absolutely spiffing hilarious bout. And then we're going all the way over this side for the level of danger that we want. Okay, so we're going from funny to dangerous. That's the choice we've got here. So remember, you can be somewhere in the middle if you like, but if you want to use your bodies as that needle, this way is funny, this way is danger. Off you go. Let me see what you would like. Okay, so I'm getting lots of danger. Danger, I think. Are you being dangerous, Adela? No? That's just you playing with your hair, is it? Okay. So you're going for funny then, yeah? And am I getting funny from Louis as well? Yeah, you're going, oh, you're sort of in the middle, are you there? Okay, right, I see. So we're going mostly dangerous, but a little bit funny as well. Okay, so what we got? We got mostly adventure, a little bit smart, mostly dangerous, a little bit funny. This is helping me choose. Okay, so I think I have one more question I need to ask from my folks here in order to find a story that's going to be perfect for everybody here and hopefully everybody watching on YouTube and Facebook as well. And that question is whether you would like this to be a story from far away or a story from where I am which is actually that's not going to work, is it? Because we're in the World Storytelling Cafe, so far away is going to mean different things to different people. Let me change the question then. See if I can make it work for everybody here. Okay. So we could have a seasonal story. We could think, okay, it is October, so we are going to have a story from autumn time, Halloween time. Or we could have a story where that doesn't matter so much. Okay. So that's what I am going to be asking you for now. If you want to have something seasonal, then we're going to go this way. And if you want to have something that could be told any time of the year, then we're going to go this way. All right, let me see where you go for that one. Okay, so it looks like I'm getting lots of people wanting seasonal. Is that right, Donald? No. Oh, that you don't care. Alistair, you don't care. Louis, you don't care? Sarah, you do care. Okay. Alistair, was I right? Were you not caring? Okay. As in I wasn't right? Well, I was right. do you know what? I like what Louis doing right now. Louis is using his thumb. So let's try using that instead, because that will be a heck of a lot easier than going from side to side, won't it? Well done, Louis. You are a genius. So thumb up means we want seasonal, and thumb down means we don't care when it's going to be. And if it's somewhere in the middle, then you can go somewhere in the middle like that. Okay, so Louis definitely doesn't care. But everybody else does. Everybody else wants something seasonal. We want to have a dangerous adventure that is mostly dangerous, but a little bit funny as well. And okay, and is kind of seasonal, but not too much. Louis wants to be able to tell the story at any time of the year, if that is at all possible. So let me see. All right. I think I do know a story to share with you all. A story that is very, very nasty. Do you think you can take a very, very nasty story? Oh, Louis is going, no, definitely don't want anything nasty. Definitely don't want anything nasty. Well, I tell you what then, Louis. Here is a secret that I'm going to share just with you, okay? Just with you, okay? So look into my eyes. I'm going to beam this secret to you telepathically, because if I said it out loud, then everybody else would hear it, wouldn't they? So just look into my eyes, and you will see the secret in this story. Okay? You got it? No? It's so difficult to do telepathy via Zoom, isn't it? Well, I tell you what, that face that you've got on right now, Louis, you know, that big smile where it looks like you're laughing, keep that thought in mind, because that's more or less what I was saying in my head. But for everybody else, they're going to get a really dangerous adventure, a really dark story that is going to be the kind of story that you would only tell at this time of year, normally. You see, this is a story about a time when some friends had gathered for some pumpkin stew. And you know why they would gather for some pumpkin stew, don't you? Because it was autumn and the pumpkins were growing and you needed to get rid of them, so you would have pumpkin stew. And at the start of the evening, it seemed like everything was going to be absolutely normal. They were sitting around the table, they were chatting, they were gobbling away their pumpkin stew, they were laughing. And then one of them thought maybe they should put the radio on and have some music. So they went over and have any of you got a radio that you use for music? So for those of you who are below the age of 19, a radio is kind of like a television without a screen. And instead of having buttons, you probably don't even know what that is, do you? Okay, so if you think of the way you tell your TV sometimes to do stuff for you, there would sometimes be a little round thing that we would call a knob. And what you'd do is you would go and you would turn. Don't laugh, Adela. That's what we would call it. You would turn this knob, and it would help you to find a particular place in the sky where music would be playing, and it would bring that music to you. So that's what a radio would do. That's what a radio was. And so someone went over to the radio and they started tuning. That's what it was called. They would start turning the knob, tuning the radio to. Stop laughing, Adela. You're putting everybody off. It's not supposed to be a story like that. They were turning the knob. They were turning the dial to find some Thank you, Sarah. They were turning the dial to find some music to play. And the way it would work is as you twisted the dial. Donald still hasn't recovered. As they twisted the dial, they would hear. And now the news at 6. Today, the Prime Minister. You can't really dance that sort of music, can you? They kept on turning. You can see Louis dancing there. I'm not sure what he's dancing to, but that was the sound that was coming out. And given that this story is from the 60s, I'm not entirely sure what that random music was either. Kept on going though. Now I don't know about you, but when they got to that spot on the dial, they were a little bit freaked out. You don't usually expect to get that through a radio. But of course, this sort of stuff happened all the time. It was maybe a radio play, where someone is like we're doing right now. Someone's telling a story, and they're pretending that there's a moment in the story where there's a scream. So they go ah like that. And well, what they've been doing was turning the dial, and they tuned in right at that moment. I mean, maybe we've even got somebody who's joined us live right at this moment. And so all they'd heard at that point was the scream. Imagine if you had come into the World Storytelling Cafe at that moment and just heard a scream. What would you think? What would you think? You'd probably think, who is this madman? And why is he wanting to do this to my eardrums? So obviously that was not going to be the kind of the kind of station on the radio that they could dance to. And Adela, you're probably a little bit confused because I'm talking about stations. If you think of it like a program, but a program that never ever ends, it just goes on and on and on, and people can go in at any time and then leave. A little bit like a train station, people are coming and going all the time. That's basically how live radio works, and live television used to work as well. Anyway, so they kept on turning until they found some music, and they parted away. And later on that night, they were still talking long into the evening, and just a few of them were still sitting together. There were maybe a couple of guys with beards, and a lady with a hat with a feather in, and a couple of Romanians were there too, or half Romanian in one case. And there was King Louis, of course. King Louis was always there, and they were sitting around and they were talking about how the evening had gone. And they thought, do you remember when we tuned the radio and that big scream came out? It was really horrible, wasn't it? It was really horrible. But there was one person there, one person who had much fluffier hair than usual and a really jazzy shirt. And he said to them, that's happened before. there's been a time when I was sitting at this table. I think it was maybe, I think it might actually have been last year, where I was tuning the radio, trying to get some music to listen to, or even just a really nice story. And it was kind of like, and now the news at 7. And it absolutely freaked me out then. It freaked me out just like it freaked all of you guys out today. It was awful. But it seems to happen every single year. And so one remarkably clever person around the table said, why don't you go back and try and find it again and listen to it? Because it might just be a part in a play. It might be that the screaming finishes and then you find out that it's, I don't know, the middle of Hamlet or something. Or the middle of, I can't say the other one, can I? Because it's bad luck to say the one that begins with M, ends with H, and has Akbar in the middle. So yeah, it could be something like that, couldn't it?
The Scottish play.
The Scottish play, said in a remarkably Scottish accent. Thank you for putting that on for us, Donald. So they all agreed that the following year, that is what they were going to do. They were going to tune in, and if they heard that scream again, they were going to be ready for it, and they were going to stay listening to it. Just like that, Louis. 1 year passed, a whole year. And friends gathered around again with their pumpkin stew, because it was that time of year. And they got the radio ready. They started turning the dial. You can do this as well if you like, folks. You just, that's it, just like that. Start turning the dial and you'll hear it go. And now the news at there it was. Okay, they had the scream. So they all buckle in, folks. That's it, just like Louis doing. And they listened. Turn it off! They couldn't bear it. The screaming was just going on and on and on. It made no sense. Why would you have a radio station that was just screaming? It made no sense. I mean, I'm sorry, folks, but this story has started to get very intense. Both Andrea and Sarah have left because of how... Oh no, Sarah, well done. You're being brave coming back here. Well done for coming back. And well done, Adela, as well, for being brave. Adela is holding the fort while her mum goes and cries into some bed linen somewhere. Louis, well done for being brave as well. I noticed you nearly ran away at one point there, didn't you? But you're still here with us. These friends, though, sitting around that table, there they were. Switching the radio off. What could it be? What could possibly be screaming at them this whole time? And that was when they started trying to think about it. Could it be a ghost trapped in the radio? Could it be a monster? Could it be I don't know what it could be. What do you think it could be? What could be making the radio scream like that? Go on then, Louis, what do you think it could be?
Shrek!
Do you mean like a dinosaur? Oh, Shrek, you mean? Did you say? What, the ogre? You think the ogre could be there inside the radio? Oh, you think he'd be scaring people?
When I was alive,
Yeah.
I don't know when, but I know this time, or some young villagers want to scare Shrek off. But Shrek is burping while they give a sound very loud at the villagers when he was young, and they ran
Yeah.
and ran
I'm
away.
remembering that, Louis. Yeah.
But they
I'm
keep doing
remembering
it
you.
again when he was older.
That was on stage, wasn't it? That Shrek that you saw. Yeah, when Shrek was a little boy and everybody starts screaming at him. Do you know, maybe that could be it. Maybe there was a radio that was playing the Shrek musical, even though it wasn't going to be written for another 40 years. That could be what it was. In fact, that was another potential thing that was on the radio, wasn't it? Maybe it was a time machine. Maybe it was a portal to another particular time. Well, everybody around the table thought they had to find this out. So they started tuning the radio back to the news station, because surely if there had been any ghosts or any time traveling or any ogres found anywhere, surely that would be on the news, wouldn't it? So they started trying to tune back to the news. And now the sport. Of course, they wouldn't be reading out the sport if there had been ghosts or if there had been time travel. That would be such big news that they wouldn't be talking about anything else. A bit like when a prince gets married, you know, the news just goes on and on and on about the prince getting married or something like that. So surely, this wasn't anything like that. Did that mean that they were the only ones who were hearing this then? Was it still there? Yeah, it was still there. Yeah. So the friends agreed that they would come back the following year, see if it was there again. And if it was there again, then they would have to tell somebody about it. That whole year passed with no one really being able to sleep. Everybody, every so often, would have a nightmare about being in a room with that radio screaming at them. And it would just get them goosebumps all over. What could possibly be making this noise? And in their dreams, they would hear the sound coming from the radio, but behind the radio would be a door. And they would find themselves moving around the radio and go up to that door. And as they would go up to that door, the screaming would get louder and louder. And they would reach out a hand to the doorknob. And that's when they would wake up. The following year, they were all gathered around with their it's clean gone out of my head. What are we gathering around with? Sorry, what? I couldn't hear you there, Adela. What are they eating? No. Adela can't put the microphone on.
I put it on. Pumpkin stew.
Oh, are you making some, Andrea?
No.
Oh, but you've got cooking gloves on.
Yeah. That's why I'm not tuning in. I'm listening. I'm just not on your camera.
Oh, we just thought you were scared.
Oh, a bit scared.
A bit. Oh, a bit scared. Yeah. Okay. But it really looks like you're making pumpkin stew because your gloves are the right colour. Anyway, so they gathered around with their pumpkin stew. Thank you for that. And they all told each other about their dream. and they'd all had the same dream. Exactly the same dream. Now that's freaky, isn't it? It is freaky when a whole 7 people are having exactly the same dream. That's just weird, isn't it? So they turned back to the radio. They remembered their promise. They remembered that if they heard the screaming again, they were definitely going to tell someone. They were definitely going to tell someone. They started tuning the radio. And now the news. Yes, baby. Okay, yeah, it was still there. The screaming was still there, so they were going to tell somebody. They went, they got a phone, they dialed 999. I mean, who else would you call? And they explained, we're hearing screams coming from the radio. They're just coming from the radio. Well, we don't know why they're screaming, but they're not stopping, and they sound really upset. They sound terrified. Please, you've got to do something about it. Please. No. Okay. The police didn't seem to want to do anything about this. Well, the friends thought they had to do something about it themselves. And maybe, just maybe, the dream had been trying to tell them something. In their dream, they had all seen a door behind the radio, hadn't they? So they went up to the door. They went up to the radio now, and there wasn't a door behind it. There was just a wall behind it. But they started to peel back the wallpaper. And you'll never guess what they found behind the wallpaper. A wall. Yeah, that's what they found behind. I know, shocking, isn't it? They all found a wall behind the wallpaper. It made no sense at all. But they all agreed, if they came back next year and the screams were still coming through that radio, they'd have to knock down the wall. They would have to make a door. That night, every single one of them had exactly the same dream. Screams coming out the radio. They went behind the radio. There was a really loud scream coming from behind the door. They opened the door, and that's when they all woke up at exactly the same time. And when they woke up, they heard someone. It was probably Louis, because he was the cheeky one. Someone had gone and turned the radio on in the middle of the night. Louis. But doing that meant that they now knew the screams went on even into the night. They would have to knock down the wall. They had to knock down the wall. But before doing that, of course, they would probably need to get the neighbours' permission. I mean, it was a neighbour's wall as well. And there was a big chance that they were going to end up bursting into the neighbour's house if they, just randomly knocked down a wall. So, even though it was getting on for 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, they were a bit bleary-eyed, so they couldn't quite work out which. They left their house and they went round to knock on the neighbour's door. Can you give me a knocking sound? Then they realised that wasn't going to be very loud, especially if their neighbours were asleep. But, I mean, this was only the 1960s. They still did have doorbells in those days. They just weren't the fancy kind with the videos or anything. They were the kind that made a really horrible noise. So, could you now try pressing the doorbell and making a horrible noise? Ready? And after pressing it for a while, they thought, okay, they're not waking up. We'll just have to ask them in the morning. And just as everybody had turned around, boom, 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 boom. There was a heavy thumping noise coming from inside. It seemed to be coming upstairs rather than downstairs, and it was getting closer and closer to the door. And now Louis, Donald, Adela, Andrea, Sarah, Alistair, everybody there at the door were beginning to get really, really nervous. Maybe they didn't actually want the door to be answered right now, but the steps were coming closer and closer and closer. And as everybody listened really, really carefully, they could hear in the background everybody was ready to run away just then. Are you guys ready to run away? The door was yanked open, and there stood a woman in her nightie, with her hair frazzling all over the place. And she said, "Why did you wake up the babies?" And that was when the friends all discovered that their next door neighbour, had triplets. And these triplets had been causing a mighty raucous amongst each other for the last 4 years or so, as they'd been growing up and going through their terrible 2s and their ferocious 4s. But the thing was, the parents, they could not stand to be in the same room as them. They needed, of course, to keep an eye on them, so they had plugged in a baby monitor. And this baby monitor was supposed to beam a radio signal up to the mum and dad's bedroom that they would then pick up on another device. And then they would be able to hear their children when they were crying. And of course, they didn't hear their children crying. So they were able to go to sleep peacefully and think everything was fine. But the reason why they weren't hearing anything was because this was the 1960s. And technology just wasn't as good back then. So it had been beaming out this radio signal to the next door's radio set. That's why they had been hearing all of this noise, and that's why all the terror that you folks have gone through, well, Louis was able to laugh right at the beginning because he knew the story wasn't going to end with anybody getting their heads ripped off with a chainsaw or their eyes gouged out with a spoon or anything horrible like that. It was going to be a lovely ending to the story. You all right, yeah? I haven't said anything that's caused anybody to feel sick, have I?
No, but in the middle, the world erupted on my head with the rain, and it was like creep, 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 and then it rained, and the door opened, and there were drips everywhere, and after.
You see, folks, this is what happens to us storytellers. When we hear stories, it doesn't just go on inside our heads, but the whole world suddenly becomes a story. That's what happened to Sarah there. As she was listening to the story and hearing the footsteps, they actually were right there in the world with the rain and the effects and everything. Are you okay, Sarah, though?
I am. A monster has just arrived. He's very, very wet because it's raining bad here. But the door is now closed because the door was open.
And your neighbour doesn't have triplets that you didn't know about.
Here is the monster.
Hello.
Get out.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is definitely scarier than anything I could have told you.
Yes.
Anyway, did you enjoy the story, folks? Okay, cool. I'm getting lots of thumbs up from people here. Would you like to have One more. One more really, really short story. Because I think we might just have time for an extra little bitty story. Okay. Now I know that story was rather spooky, wasn't it? And Louis wasn't too keen on really spooky stories. But it ended quite light, didn't it? It was quite a happy story at the end. So how about, as our second story, we redress the balance by having a story that is really lovely but ends with doom. Does that sound good? Yeah? Okay, there we go. We got lots of fun from people. And yeah, Louis, this is going to sort of redress the balance.
Can you please say again, please?
Oh, pardon, Louis. Sorry, we couldn't quite hear you. That. Oh,
Again,
well,
please.
I think we're losing you there a bit, Louis. I think you might have moved, haven't you? You're not in your bedroom anymore. So don't worry. What we're going to do, we're going to have a really jolly story for you. But I'll warn you when the dangerous bit is coming up. So if you want to escape before then, you can. Okay. So this is a story about a princess, a beautiful princess who, do you know what? I can't remember her name, but there's a reason for that, and I'll explain why I can't remember her name in a moment. You see, at the beginning of this story, she had got to the age that I think is about the age you are at, Adela, where she needed to get married. Her mum and dad were telling her, you must get married, because that's what young ladies of that age had to do. And especially if you were a princess, because being a princess, you had to, you had to become a queen one day, probably. So this princess was looking forward to being a queen, but she wasn't too looking forward to the whole getting married thing. And she used to go out into the garden and complain about it to her best friend, who was the gardener's son. So the gardener would be there doing his gardening. Obviously, the son wouldn't be doing the gardening because sons don't like to help their dads with that kind of thing. So instead, the son would sit and chat with the princess, and they would have lovely conversations about how they were never ever going to get married. But because this princess had just had her birthday, suddenly the king and queen started bringing all of these princes to visit the castle and find out whether she wanted to marry them. And to everyone, she said, no, 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 no. Until along came a wizard. And this wizard said to the king and queen, if your princess will not marry me, then I will curse your castle. I will make you, king, so ugly that you won't want to leave your bedroom. And I will make you, queen, so ill you won't be able to get out of bed. And I will make you, princess, who keeps saying no, 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 as a punishment for all your no's. I will make your nose run all the time. So, if you had an offer of marriage like that, would you say yes? Sarah's saying no, Andrea's saying no. Adela thinks it's her kind of guy. Yeah, a wizard who would curse your entire family if you say no. But, oh, you're showing me the engagement ring there, Adela. Oh, Adela's met the wizard in this story, clearly. He must have moved on from this story. But at the time, the princess said no. And so the wizard said, right, that's it, I'm going to curse you, I'm going to curse your entire castle. King, you are going to be so ugly you won't want to leave your room. Queen, you're going to be so ill you won't be able to leave your room. And princess, your nose is going to run and run and run and run. And with that, the wizard left. And of course, the princess saw everything happen just like the wizard had said. Her father looked in the mirror, saw how ugly he was, and went straight to his bedroom. And the queen suddenly was taken so ill, she went to bed and she could not get up. And as for the princess, her nose just kept on running. And everybody around started calling her Princess Runny Nose, which is what I call her. And I'm sorry, but I've completely forgotten her actual name. Even I can only think to call her Princess Runny Nose now. Obviously being really, really upset, Princess Runny Nose ran out into the garden looking for her best friend, but he wasn't there. It looked as if even her best friend didn't want to see a princess with a really runny nose. So she was so upset that she cried, and the tears mingled with the snot, and it made her dress all icky, and now she was smelly, and she just ran straight into the forest. She was so desperate to hide. And while she was there in the forest, she came across a unicorn. Have any of you ever seen a unicorn before? No, you haven't seen a unicorn. Do you know what one looks like? Has anyone told you what a unicorn looks like? Yeah, some people are showing me. Yeah, that's right, like a horse with one long horn off from the center of its forehead. And when she found this unicorn, she was able to dry her eyes, but of course she couldn't dry her nose. And she said, "Hello." And the unicorn said hello back. And the unicorn said to her, "Princess, I can grant you just one wish. If you do something for me, but I don't think you'll like this." Princess Runny Nose was prepared to do anything for a wish. So she accepted the unicorn's offer, and she said, "I wish for my dad to feel good about coming out the bedroom again." And the unicorn said, "Well then, you must eat a bar of chocolate." Who here would be happy to do that? Okay. Lots of people would. That's funny. And Princess Runny Nose, she didn't mind either. She quickly got out a packet of chocolate and wolfed it right down. And the unicorn's horn glowed for a bit. And then the unicorn offered to take her back to the castle. So she got into the back of the unicorn and rode all the way back to the castle, where she saw her father looking just as handsome as he always had and really pleased to be out of the room. Although he did also look a bit sad because his wife, the queen, she couldn't leave the room. She was still there. She was so ill she couldn't get out of bed. So Princess Runny Nose, she turned to the unicorn and she begged if she could have one more wish. Just one more wish. And the unicorn thought for a moment and said, "Okay, I will give you just one more wish, but you have to do something for me, and I don't think you'll like this." Well, the Princess Runny Nose, she knew exactly what she wanted to wish for. So she accepted the unicorn's offer and she said, "I wish for my mum to be well again." And the unicorn said, "In that case, you must dance a little boogie." You folks, would you be happy to dance a little boogie in return for a wish to get you? Oh, look, some of them are doing it right now. Goodness me. Oh, yeah, we're getting jiggy with it here at the World Storytelling Cafe. That's exactly what Princess Runnynose did. That's how they invented the dance move, you know, where they go like this. And after she had done that for a while, the horn on the unicorn started to glow. Sorry, we've lost Sarah. I think she's turned into Princess Runnynose herself. And sure enough, the Queen was able to get out of bed. She was well again. She came straight out to see her daughter and her husband, and everybody was so happy. Even Princess Runnynose. The King and Queen were especially happy that their daughter had broken the curse of the wizard, because now they could invite all of the princes back in to come and marry their daughter, Princess Runnynose. So again, Princess Runnynose had to sit there like a lemon as all of these people had to come in and decide whether they wanted to marry her, like people shopping in a supermarket for a lemon. And these princes were looking at Princess Runnynose as she stood there going like this. And every prince looked at her and said, sorry, I don't think I want to marry this princess. No, oh, that's horrid. No, I don't want to marry this princess. All of the princes did not seem to want to marry Princess Runnynose anymore. So Princess Runnynose went out into the garden where the unicorn was waiting for her. And she begged the unicorn if she could have one more wish. And the unicorn thought for a moment and then said, okay, I will give you just one more wish, but you'll have to do something for me, and I don't think you'll like this. Shh. This, one more wish, this. I need to rethink that rhyme, don't I? Anyway. To marry you. Well, doesn't look like anybody here was expecting that. What was that? What was that, Sarah?
Well, I lost you in the middle. I don't know if everybody else lost you in the middle. You froze.
Yeah, so did I.
Did you all freeze? Oh no!
You froze, not us.
Yeah. Did I freeze?
Yeah.
Okay, it didn't feel like I was frozen, but I tell you what, I will tell you the whole bit of the story. Where did you get to?
The third wish.
The third wish. Okay.
Yeah, you've got to do something for me.
Oh, you've got to do something for me. Oh yeah, that's what the unicorn said, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You have to do something for me, and I don't think you'll like this. Okay, so Princess Runnynose wanted this wish so badly that she got ready to make it anyway. And she said, I wish that you will marry me, little unicorn. There you go. You weren't expecting that, were you? The unicorn wasn't expecting it either. And the unicorn said, okay, I will grant you that wish. Only if you chop off my head. So, who here would chop off the head of a unicorn? Noah has just arrived behind Andrea and Adela because he would chop off the head of a unicorn. He would definitely chop off the head of a unicorn. In fact, I bet you've done it before, haven't you, Noah? So, the Princess Runny Nose, she wanted this wish so badly. She went and she got an axe from the gardener's shed. And she got ready to chop off that unicorn's head. I said this story was going to end in a dark place. Here's your dark ending. And so, folks, if you are ready for it, you can chop off the unicorn's head on the count of 3. Okay, on the count of 3. If you don't want to chop off the unicorn's head, look away now. Okay, everybody who does want to do it. 1, 2, 3. And the moment she chopped off the head of the unicorn, he wasn't a unicorn anymore. It was the gardener's son, with his head attached as well. This is the one thing I always get confused about in the story, because she chops off his head and then the gardener's son appears there, but he still has his head. You see, he had been cursed by the wizard as well. The wizard knew that Princess Runnynose really wanted to marry the gardener's son. She hadn't told anyone. She hadn't even told herself. But now she had realized that's what she wanted to do, and she had been prepared to do anything to get it, even chop off the head of a magical unicorn. Well, there was her beloved. And so that's how the story ends, with a gardener's son becoming a prince, a princess living forever with a runny nose, and a really upset wizard who wandered away stamping his feet until he eventually came to a little town where he met a young lady called Adela and found out that she was very happy to marry someone like him, and he gave her an engagement ring, which she's showing off right now. Well, folks, I think that has brought us right up to the very end of our storytelling session. So I'm going to finish and hand back to the wonderful Sarah. I'm pretty sure it's John, really, but it's going back to Sarah now. Thank you ever so much, everybody, for joining me here at the World Storytelling Cafe.
And we all wanted that unicorn's head off because we are storytellers and we like that kind of thing. Brilliant. Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful evening, and it's much better listening to stories than listening to the rain, which is pounding on us here in South Mims. So everybody else, I hope you are safe and warm and comfortable. World Storytelling Cafe is back on Tuesday with the young storytellers of the world, and then we're back again next Friday with another wonderful evening of stories. Thank you again to Chip. Give him a big round of applause.
Thank you, everyone. Cheerio.
Next week, the John will be back in the full beardedness of John Rowe. See you all. Bye. Thank you, who's ever steering us on our magic carpet through the night from the World Storytelling Cafe. Goodbye.